All right, episode 6 of The Fighter and the Writer. I'm Chris Mannix. I'm the writer. No Sergio Mora today. And I'm going to take a moment to enjoy that, to not have Sergio sitting next to me. But I've got someone that I enjoy sitting next to me a lot more. The Fighter, the former world title challenger, the pride of Philadelphia, of Puerto Rico, of wherever else he is from any day of the week. The co-host of the Mi Gallo podcast, along with Abner Mares, King Gabe Rosado. Gabe, good to have you here, man.
Thanks. Happy to be here, man.
Yeah, it's so much more enjoyable already than having Sergio sitting next to me. I would say you have big shoes to fill, but you don't.
Sergio's my guy. He's my guy, man.
So, very diplomatic, very diplomatic. We got a lot to get to on the show, and I want to start with Jake Paul. This week, Jake's fight with Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. was formally announced with a press conference in LA. Paul and Chavez Jr. will meet in a cruiserweight fight. Jake is coming off a win over Mike Tyson last summer. A lot of people watched that. Chavez Jr. has not fought since beating MMA fighter Uriah Hall just around the same time. Some have said this is a good fight for Jake Paul, Gabe, noting that Chavez is a former world title holder, even though that was more than a decade ago. Others have criticized it as kind of a sideshow, given that Chavez is pushing 40 and probably a decade past his best days. Where do you stand on this? What do you think of this fight?
Well, I had to take some time to think about it, man, because when it was first done, when the fight was first made, I felt that it was just, I kind of compared it a little bit to the Mike Tyson situation. Mike Tyson fight, I don't really consider that an official fight. You know what I mean? Even though it was ruled a official boxing match. But because, Chavez is just very inconsistent. You know what I mean? And, I really don't know his habits. He has a bad track record on, preparing. But look, man, if Chavez comes in at least 60%, then I think Jake really has a fight, because one thing that Chavez has is experience. He may not have the youth, and the agility that Jake has right now, but he does have the experience, and I think that experience would give Jake a problem.
I completely agree with you. I think this is an excellent fight for Jake Paul. Officially, he is 11-1, but he's really like 2-1 as a boxer. He's fought Tommy Fury. He fought a couple of no-name cruiserweights. I guess if you want to throw Mike Perry into that list, you can say he's 3-1. But against guys that are traditional boxers, he's a 2-1 fighter. And he's taking on a guy who at one point was one of the top middleweights in all of boxing, a legitimate former world champion. Well past his best days, but it's a legitimate fight. And the people out there that criticize it, I don't think they appreciate the context. I mean, when guys are coming up the ranks, when they're 2-1, 3-1, they're not fighting great fighters. Do you remember who you fought when you were 2-1?
Well,
I can tell you because I looked it up.
But I feel what you're saying, but Jake is on a different level. So, Jake is doing pay-per-views.
Yes.
He's doing Netflix. When you're doing fights of that magnitude on that stage, you kind of do have to match up evenly at least. You know what I mean? So, this fight right here with Chavez, one thing that I think will give Jake problems is the footwork. Just Chavez knowing placement. Because when Chavez is fighting, when Jake is fighting guys like Perry or Nate Diaz, those guys don't understand footwork. Those are MMA guys. Yeah, they can fight. They're fighters, but they're not boxers. See, Chavez, one thing he'll do is he'll understand placement. He'll understand how to place the left hook to the body. And he'll hit Jake with things where the Jake really doesn't see coming. So that'd be a problem. But yeah, just with the level of the platform, I think Jake does have to step it up.
He does, but you're kind of making my point there in that, what would you say this is, a 60-40 fight in favor of Jake? I mean, how would you balance it?
I'll go more like 70.
Okay, but let's assume for the sake of argument
just because Chavez has to surprise me.
Yeah, let's assume, let's say Chavez is in shape and is in as good a shape he can be in for a guy that's 39 years old who's been inactive. I mean, for whatever it's worth, his dad's out there saying he's focused, he's ready, he's good, he's going to be at his very best. If he's at his very best at this stage, 65-35, I would favor Jake Paul in it, which I think for a guy, again, in his effectively 4th professional fight, that's not bad. I'm going to read you some of your guys that are on that list. When you were 2-1, you fought a guy named Cecil Yost in Philadelphia. Do you remember Cecil Yost?
Shit,
Probably
no,
not. Probably not in that one. When your 5th fight, you fought Mustafa Johnson, who was 3-1 at the time, also in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
My point is that Chavez, even at this stage of his career, is a guy with 54 wins on his professional resume, who beat credible guys to win a middleweight title, who had that phenomenal near finish against Sergio Martinez. I understand that was a decade ago, but I don't know how some people look at a Chavez fight and say, oh, it's outrageous that he's fighting Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. He should be fighting someone much more credible. Jake Paul is still building his credibility as a fighter.
Yeah.
He's not there yet.
No, for sure. I think it's more based on just the behavior from Chavez. I think that's what it really comes down to. His in and out of rehab, always having problems and not being consistent, coming in a fight out of shape or out of. So, it's more that, where people are judging him on. If he was a guy that, for instance, me and Chavez are the same age. Now, I wasn't a world champion like Chavez, but if the fight was between me and Jake, people would say that's a fight because, of my track record. They know more active. I come to fight.
Incredible fights much more recently.
Where Chavez is very, very inconsistent. And then you got to remember, he was a world champion, but it was almost kind of...
He was navigated well by Top
He was
Rank.
Navigated.
He was navigated well.
Yeah, it wasn't your normal
best
route.
win was Andy Lee.
Exactly, and he looked phenomenal against Andy Lee. But it wasn't your usual route to the world title.
And again, that was like 2012.
Yeah,
like 2011, 12. Like
For
it was
sure.
such a long. You're right. He's getting this fight because of his name.
But like I said, I think Chavez is at a point where he does have to redeem himself, and I think that he does have a lot of regrets in what he's done in his career and where he should have been. I think he does look at a guy like Canelo and said, man, if I would have just dedicated myself, I could have been what Canelo is right now. So I think, with maturity, you learn from your mistakes. And I think it's an opportunity for Chavez to go like, man, I could redeem myself right now. I can we saw with Chris Eubank and how his father united together. It was beautiful, right? That's something that can happen between Chavez and his father. There's always there's static in that relationship where maybe this is an opportunity where they can kind of, do something that's amazing.
And look, this might be for Jake the second fight that I'm not 100% sure he's going to win. Like the Tommy Fury fight was one. That was probably a 50-50-ish type of fight. He played out that way in the ring. But the Tyrone Woodleys, the Nate Robinsons, the Ben Askrens. Don't get me started on Mike Tyson. I never in a million... I won so much money betting Jake Paul by decision. I won more money betting Jake Paul by decision than I've ever won betting on boxing ever.
That's
ever.
Wow.
Like, to me, there was no chance on God's earth that a 58-year-old Mike Tyson was going to be able to hurt Jake Paul. Nor did I think that with 2-minute rounds and bigger gloves, Jake Paul was going to be able to score a knockout. Like, by decision was a almost mortal lock. This one... I favored Jake to win for all the reasons you laid out there. But can I see a pathway to victory for Chavez Jr.? Absolutely. If he is in the best shape he's been in since his middleweight title days, if he's focused, he is still a better boxer than Jake Paul. Like, he is still a more accomplished boxer than Jake Paul. And he's big enough and historically has had a good enough chin that I think he has the potential to pose a lot of problems to Jake in this fight.
No, for sure. His last fight was Uriah
Hall last summer.
Okay, I called that fight. Now, I feel that Chavez's performance was a little more like it was a sparring session. It was his first fight back in a while. He didn't look horrible, but, again, Uriah is a guy that's he's a UFC guy, so he's not punching... he's not technically sound.
He didn't throw a lot of punches in that fight.
He didn't. He threw a lot of punches in that fight. So Chavez went by I think it was an 8-rounder. He didn't look fatigued or anything like that. So, I believe that Chavez will come in better shape. So, I hope he does because it will be a great fight. It will be a great fight. If Chavez takes this serious, it will be a great fight.
Yeah. It's a great undercard fight as well. Zurdo Ramirez taking on Uniel Dorticos. this is a boxing fans fight.
For
I don't know what Dorticos has left in his late 30s, but when he was at his best at cruiserweight, that guy could crack.
Yeah.
I mean, he's only got 2 losses on his resume, and both of them were at the highest level. This is a fight that I think we're going to learn something about Zurdo, because he's fought a big, strong guy in Arsan Goulamirian.
Yeah.
He fought a good boxer and another strong guy in Chris Smith. He has not fought a guy with this kind of power, Gabe.
Yeah.
27 wins, 25 knockouts for Dorticos. What do you think of this one?
Man, to me, I think that Zurdo is the top guy in the cruiserweight division.
You put him ahead of Ajay Pattaya right now.
I do, only because Zurdo does things in the cruiserweight division that all the other champions don't. The angles. He fights like a middleweight. You know what I mean? He doesn't have the speed of a middleweight, but he has the movement of a middleweight. You know, just creating angles, combinations. He's hard to get hit. And then when he does get hit, he has a chin. I think, you know, the only fight that he lost was Bivol. But Bivol is just, to me, Bivol is my number 1 pound for pound right now. You know, I don't really think anyone could beat Bivol. But, you know, Zurdo, for me, man, I think he's a guy that if he takes a shot, he can handle it because he has a chin. But I think he's too smooth, too slick.
I was thinking about that watching the Badu Jack Noel McGalian fight a couple of weeks ago. Zurdo, I think Zurdo beats both those guys.
Yeah.
Like, because what you said, like he fights at cruiserweight like a middleweight or a super middleweight, where he's doing that step arounds and using footwork that's not like, it's not Lomachenko-esque, but it's fast enough in this weight class
For sure.
to cause a lot of problems. The chin is interesting. He's had a great chin throughout his career. He's shown a really good chin in 2 fights.
For sure.
This guy can punch, though, and that punch never goes. The last thing to go in a fighter, as you know, is that pop.
But what was the guy he fought in Saudi? I forget, is it Smith?
Who? Dorticos? No, Dorticos didn't fight.
Zurdo.
Oh, Zurdo fought Bill Smith, yeah.
Yeah. He was a good puncher.
Good puncher. Not like this, though. I think this guy's more explosive, or at least he was at one point.
Well, I think Zurdo's style, he's a guy where he kind of, when someone faces Zurdo, they're afraid to pull the trigger. So sometimes they don't really sit on their power because Zurdo he's switching from different angles and he's throwing combinations. And then Zurdo throws effortless shots and then he'll throw a hard one. So he knows how to switch speed. So I think Zurdo's style his offense is really difficult to counter him with a hard shot, because if you load up, he's going to make you miss and he'll make you pay with about 2-3 punches. You know, so the guy has power, but it's a different ballgame to actually land that shot. You know what I mean? You got to have more than just the fastball. You got to have the sliders and the changeups. I don't think the guy has that in his arsenal.
Yeah. So you look at the poster for this show, and there's an obvious conclusion to draw.
Yeah.
And that is, if Jake Paul wins against Chavez Jr. at cruiserweight, could Jake Paul challenge the winner of Zurdo Dorticos for the unified cruiserweight championship? Now, you and I both know that the WBA is going to find a way to wrangle its way into this, to sanction it somehow. If Jake wins, he will wind up in the rankings. He will wind up as a qualified contender for one of Zurdo's cruiserweight titles. If you're Jake Paul, do you mess with Zurdo Ramirez after this fight?
I mean, it's like you said earlier, you're moving him a certain way, right? And he should fight better competition, but Zurdo is just a different, that's a whole different league,
That's a big
man.
leap. It's hard to describe what that leap is.
It's just, man, it's like little league, major league.
Yeah.
It's just a different level, man. You know, I think Jake needs a couple more years to really even get to that level. And the thing is that the fight absolutely doesn't make sense for Jake.
Makes sense for Zurdo. So Zurdo would sign up for that.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
6 days
for
a week
Zurdo.
and twice on Sunday.
For sure. But for Jake, man, I just think it's a fight that he really doesn't need.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I know he talks a lot about becoming a world champion, but you know, that's not a Chavez fight is not the right setup fight to fight a Zurdo.
Yeah, I think you've got. I mean, I don't know what's in between that, but there's, like you said, there's a lot I think that would have to come for him to be ready for that type of fight. But you never know with Jake. He could take a big swing at something like this.
I'd be shocked. I give him his props.
There's he's on this undercard though for there's no other reason for him to be on undercard, right?
Yeah.
Like Zurdo does good crowds in Southern California. Has headlined I think his last 7 or 8 events, whether here or overseas. Like, he's a main eventer. He's fighting on this
sure.
card for a reason.
Yeah.
I don't think there's no reason this guy's on this undercard.
And it's the Honda Center.
Yes.
So the Honda Center, like Jake, is going to be a different atmosphere that Jake's never experienced.
Yeah.
This ain't Florida.
A lot of Mexicans.
This ain't Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
This ain't
He's only fought in California once, and that was on that Tyson undercard with no fans.
Yeah. So my thing is, he's going to feel a different atmosphere, man. It's going to be crazy. It's going to be a big Mexican fan base. He's going to get booed. It's going to
Do you think the Mexican fans get behind Chavez? Like, they get behind Zurdo?
Absolutely, man.
Really? Okay.
Absolutely, because Chavez is royalty.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? To the sport.
And he was built in Mexico. Like, he fought a lot of low-level guys on those, what do they call those top-ranked cards back in the day? I'm blanking on it, but you know what I'm thinking. They were these low-level cards that Chavez Jr. would often headline, and he built his resume that way.
No, for sure, man. Smokers.
Yes, basically, yeah.
Yeah, but if you think about it, right, when Chavez fought Danny Jacobs, he went into that fight with bad reputation, not being lazy, all that, whatever. But he had the crowd, and we all know
for a while.
We all know how that ended out.
Yeah, it ended up with you fighting in an empty stadium afterwards.
I know, it was crazy, and I was on the card just in case Chavez fell out, and then I'd fight Jacobs. So I think the fan base is going to be huge for Chavez and Zurdo. So it's going to be a hostile crowd for Jake. For Jake,
it's interesting though that fan base did turn on Chavez after that Jacobs fight. I'm not sure they've ever come all the way back after they believed he quit against Jacobs. That's a tough one to come back from. All right, let's talk about Manny Pacquiao. This week, Pacquiao magically appeared in the WBC's 147-pound rankings as the WBC prepares to sanction a fight between Pacquiao and Mario Barrios. Pacquiao has not fought since losing to Yordenis Ugas in 2021. He has not won a fight since beating Keith Thurman back in 2019. He has not held the WBC title, for what it's worth, since 2010 when he beat Antonio Margarito. Let's start here. Are you okay as someone that clawed his way to world title opportunities? Are you okay with Manny Pacquiao being gifted this world title shot?
It's Manny Pacquiao. He's a legend, Hall of Famer, but it's like, rules are rules, man. And I think it's just unfair for the guys that are in line for the title. I feel like that fight should be made, but not with the title on the line, So it's kind of hypocritical with the sanctioning bodies to, put Pacquiao in that position. I get it. He's a legend, Hall of Famer, but, he didn't earn the spot.
The sanctioning bodies these days are under siege because we know that Turki Al-Sheikh and this TKO conglomerate that is pushing its way into boxing don't want them involved, right? They want the Ring Magazine Championship to be the recognized title. Perhaps down the line, they manufacture a new title. That remains to be seen. The sanctioning bodies have responded to that siege by just stepping on rake after rake, by showing time after time just how incompetent and corrupt that they can be. Like, just a couple of weeks ago, I stomped all over the IBF for making this Williams School mandatory challenge based on no credible wins whatsoever and putting us in that position. The WBC on that same card confused the hell out of boxing fans with two cruiserweight champions. You had Badu Jack, the recognized champion, former champion in recess, going up against Noel Mikhailian, former champion, current champion in recess. It is just one big headache after the other. The WBA is just gross. They continue to manufacture belts, secondary titles, all that stuff they talked about a couple of years ago about reforming their championship system. That has gone all out the window in favor of money. I think it's a terrible look.
No, it's crazy.
I saw Mauricio Suleiman said recently, he brought up the example of how his father sanctioned the Marvin Hagler Sugar Ray Leonard fight back in 1987. Well, you know what? He was wrong to do that too. Like, Leonard was off for 3 years before that fight. And for what it's worth, two of the other sanctioning bodies would not sanction that fight. The WBA wouldn't sanction it because Hagler didn't fight their challenger. And the IBF basically just said, no, We're not doing that. The guy hasn't fought in 3 years, and he's fighting in Hagler's weight class. So, it's that old thing your parents told you: 2 wrongs do not make a right, guys. Like putting Pacquiao in these rankings is just wrong.
Yeah, it's crazy. I think they just did it with Boots Ennis, where they make him super champ.
Yeah,
and then they put the Ryan Roley.
With
crazy.
2 guys in Ryan and Roley who have never fought at welterweight.
Yeah.
Like 2 guys in Ryan Garcia and Rolly Ramirez, never been full welterweights, fighting for a welterweight title. It's just disgusting. The fight itself, I'm not going to say I'm getting Tyson Paul vibes off this.
Yeah.
But I think people need to remember what Manny Pacquiao is at this point.
Yeah.
He is a 46-year-old who did not look good in his last fight against Yordenis Ugas, and who in these subsequent exhibitions has showcased a very fleshy dad bod during these fights. Fighting at I think it was around 160 he fought his last one.
And it wasn't an easy little exhibition either.
No, it wasn't. Pacquiao, look, I don't know why Pacquiao wants to fight. Is it about the money? Is it about the need for attention? Is it about you just can't give it up? Barrios, of all the title holders that are out there, is probably the easiest one to face. You're not going to have to face a killer like Boots Ennis. But I'm telling you, Gabe, he's not winning this fight. He's not. I'm sorry. As little as I think of Mario Barrios, who I think might be 1 fight away from retirement as well, at least he's been an active fighter. Yeah. Manny Pacquiao, 4 years removed from his last fight, at 46 years old, getting down to 147. I don't care how many training videos I see of him in Wildcard working with Freddie Roach. I don't care how many hill runs that he's on. There's nothing that's going to convince me that Manny Pacquiao is going to win this fight at 46 years old.
No, man, it is crazy. But, one thing is Manny is special, And
I know you're a Wildcard guy. I get it.
Manny's special, and there's things that Manny can do that Barrios hasn't seen yet,
Could do. The Manny could do back in the day. Okay.
For sure, man. But, it just, I think if there is a fighter, it's Barrios that Manny can look good against.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But, I think it is wild that he got sanctioned to fight for a title. I think the sanctioning bodies are just, hypocritical. And I think it's stupid.
It's disrespectful.
And I think it's bad for the sport.
It's disrespectful for the guys that are sitting there at number 1, number 2, number 3 in those rankings saying, hey, I earned my opportunity.
For sure.
This guy. And Mauricio calling him a proud former WBC champion, which was a lifetime ago.
That's crazy.
That he was wearing a WBC belt. It's just, it's truly embarrassing.
But I'll tell you what. I wouldn't be surprised if Manny looks good. I wouldn't be surprised just because he's from that cloth, man. He's special. He's not your usual 47-year-old.
So is Mike Tyson. He was 58.
Manny has that thing in him that just he has that it factor.
Just
no.
Just
See, this is the difference, right? Mike Tyson lifestyle. You know what I'm saying? Smokes weed, does the shrooms.
Wait. We're going to talk about Manny Pacquiao being this clean living type of guy all the time?
He stopped. he found God and he stopped.
He stopped, yes.
He found God.
I think the damage might have been done, though.
Years ago.
The damage might have been done, though, up until that point.
So, I think he's a man that he's lived a healthy lifestyle for a few years now. You know what I'm saying? Where, he's a fresh 47. It's kind of it's like a Bernard Hopkins.
That's a guy that lived a clean life.
It's like a Bernard Hopkins.
Also someone that was, but Bernard was active all throughout that.
No,
Bernard never took any time off. There were brief lulls, but he was always going. Pacquiao has been just kind of hanging out, fighting South Korean YouTubers and living in the Philippines, thinking about his political ambitions. Now he sees an opportunity to cherry pick a world title. And maybe he needs the money, and he goes and takes it. I mean, look, I love Manny Pacquiao like everybody else. I got into boxing in part because of the greatness of Manny Pacquiao. But when it's over, man, and it's over for Manny Pacquiao.
I feel you, man. But I feel bad that if he has to do it for the money. Hopefully, he's not doing it for the money. Hopefully, it's something because he just really has that desire to want to fight. You know what I mean? If it's for the money, then he's going to get hurt. Yeah. Because your heart's not in it.
Yeah, I agree with that. I want to ask you about this fight card that is being announced this week as well. In New York City, headlined by Edgar Berlanga going up against Hamza Shiraz. That's a good fight. Shakur Stevenson long anticipated fight against William Zepeda. I want to focus on that one for a second because I think that's the most interesting fight on this card.
Yeah.
If both Shakur Stevenson and William Zepeda were 100% healthy, I would favor Shakur Stevenson to win by maybe wide decision.
Sure.
I think his defensive skills, his accuracy, they would cause Zepeda a whole bunch of problems. More so maybe after I watched Tevin Farmer do what he did in back-to-back fights. But I just don't know, Gabe, what version of Shakur is going to come in. We see him hurt his hands every single time he fights. He did it in Saudi Arabia against Josh Padley in his last fight. And if you don't have two working hands, like if you're not able to throw those punches without reservation, you're going to have a problem with William Zepeda because he's going to throw 85 to 105 punches per round. What's your early thought on that matchup?
I think he's going to, one thing about Shakur is even if he hurts his hands, he's still going to let his shots go. Because we saw that he hurt his hand with Padley, but he still was letting the shots fly. So, I think he needs to do something to strengthen his hands, man. You know what I mean? Because it's crazy that he has those fragile hands. But,
at this age, too.
Exactly, man. So it's kind of crazy, right? But, Tevin Farmer did a lot of things that I think Shakur can do even better.
So tell me about that. What did Tevin Farmer expose in Zepeda?
Well, the first fight, I worked that first fight in Saudi with you. And, one thing that Tevin did is he created angles because Zepeda comes in a straight line. Tevin was just creating angles, throwing shots off the angle, slipping, throwing that right counter with the left counter shot. So, and one thing that Shakur can do is he can switch to orthodox and southpaw. You know what I mean? So he can give you both looks. I think it's going to be too much quick hand speed, and just the footwork is just going to be a big problem for Zepeda. I don't think Zepeda can catch up to that footwork.
And that look, it happened twice with Farmer doing it back-to-back times.
And Farmer impressed me in the first fight.
Yeah.
And
he shocked me in the first because he was coming off the Morataya loss. I think a lot of people believed
he dropped Zepeda too.
He did. He
dropped Zepeda too.
And he lost both clean. Like they were both losses.
Yeah.
They were just a lot more competitive than people thought. And look,
For sure.
I don't think it's as easy as saying like Tevin Farmer did this, Shakur's a better version of Tevin Farmer. They are different in many ways. But I think Zepeda will have a lot of problems with that defense of Shakur. That step back that Shakur does to get out of range and then throw counter shots, I think that's going to be problematic. But if I see him wince in that first round, like it's just going to be a problem. Like this is a guy, this is a buzzsaw, man. And I would argue that like I think Tevin remarkably maybe has more crack than Shakur at 135. Like I didn't think I'd say that, but
probably
maybe like
because Tevin didn't have a big knockout ratio, but
no,
but like I said,
he looked physically big. Like he was a big guy. When I saw those two guys get in the ring, I'm like, wow. I mean, Tevin his best years came at 130. When he moved up to 135, sure. Like, but he looked big.
For sure. But I think Shakur, he's that kind of guy where even if he hurts his hand, he's going to keep throwing shots. And look, Zepeda, he has great pressure. But the thing is, you got to do more than just apply pressure on Shakur. You got to do feints. You got to double up shots. There's a lot of those things that it's kind of like the pressure that you need against Shakur is like a Chavez Sr. kind of pressure. Rolling, just doing a lot of smart things, cutting off the angles. Zepeda puts pressure, but it ain't Chavez Sr. pressure. You know what I mean? So it's the kind of pressure that actually falls right into the hands of Shakur, where Shakur could just dominate and control the pace of the fight.
I favor Shakur.
Yeah.
But letting your hands go against Josh Padley, who's not a threat, is different than letting...
Josh looked good in his last fight.
Josh looked good. Josh earned himself a matchroom deal. Good for Josh. You got to win a couple of months later. Give him the opportunity, just like the kid that stepped in to fight Kambosos. Like, if they're willing to do stuff like that, they deserve more opportunities. But Josh Padley cannot punch. He cannot punch. Nah. Zepeda can punch. Like, he's not a one-punch knockout guy, but the beatings he put on credible guys, Mercito Hesta, Jojo Diaz at that time was credible. Maxie Hughes, that win his age pretty well for Zepeda. If he's reluctant to let his hands, Shakur I'm talking about, if he's reluctant to let his hands go, man, I think that could go south for him pretty quickly.
I don't see Zepeda landing no shots, because one thing you got to add to for Shakur is he has Crawford in his corner, and he has Andre Ward, probably one of the best
some brilliant
boxers
minds.
with footwork. So when you got those mentors in your camp, explaining detail to you and things like that, and you bring that to the night of the fight, it's almost like a cheat code, man. You know, you got the best guys in the game that are giving you advice and are actually you're sparring with Crawford. You're actually learning hands-on with him. So I just think that Shakur he's a special talent and he has a great team.
I think this is the fight where we find out if Shakur really is a pound-for-pound guy.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, we talked about how Top Rank navigated Chavez Jr. Didn't do it quite the same way with Shakur Stevenson, but he was matched really well. He had, I think it was 2 of his belts were vacant titles that he won. He beats Joet Gonzalez to beat 1 belt. He beats a long-faded Jamel Herring to win another belt. Does have the Oscar Valdez win. That's an excellent win for him. But this to me is easily the toughest test of his career.
For sure.
The Zepeda is above the guys that I mentioned.
For sure. I see it looking like how Floyd dominated Corrales.
Interesting.
But I'm going to eliminate the knockdowns, though.
But
that's how I see it.
Hey, Floyd at 135 was a bad man.
I see it that way because, you know, I just see that this is the fight that Shakur needs.
Yeah.
Right? Because everyone's saying, well, you didn't fight no one. You didn't fight no one. And he's looking for the Tank fights and he's looking for the Haney fight. So I think this is the opportunity for him to really show what he can do against a top guy in Zepeda.
A number 1 guy for a moment, number 1 across all 4 sanctioning bodies. Yes, the shine has come off him a little bit after that, those 2 farmer fights, but he's still a buzzsaw. And
Zepeda, I don't want to discredit him. He's really a top guy. But it's just styles make fights.
I agree with you.
Bad, like if you go Zepeda Haney, right? If you go that style, even though the weights are off, if you go that kind of style, then I'm leaning a little more towards Zepeda. But it's styles make fights, man. And Shakur's he's too slippery, man, in the counters and things. So
and Zepeda is a straight line guy. Like he's coming at you and he's going to throw. I mean, I like his punch variance. I think he goes to the body really well, and he's hurt a lot of guys that way. But he is kind of right at you, straight ahead. Shakur should be able to handle that pretty well. All right, last thing for you. I want to get your take on what we saw this past weekend. Tough weekend for the Filipino fighting fans. Charlie Suarez comes into this fight, title fight against Emmanuel Navarrete, undefeated but untested. And it turns out to be a really entertaining fight. Navarrete appeared to be winning to me, and the judges ultimately, until about the 6th round when Suarez opened up a pretty nasty cut over the left eye of Navarrete. The referee ruled it a headbutt. Ringside replay at the time was inconclusive. After the 7th round, the fight was stopped. By rule, it went to the cards, which Navarrete won by decision. But let's start here. You probably watched that a million times. Punch or butt?
No, it was a punch.
I agree with you.
It was a punch. But, it was a punch, right? But the thing is the ref was on this side. So when Suarez rolls under and throws the shot, you can't, from the angle where the ref is standing, you don't really know if it was a headbutt or a blow. So to his defense, he really couldn't call it. Unfortunately, they don't have the rematch. I mean, the replay in Cali.
No, they did. They reviewed it. Jack Reese, who was in charge of the video review there, said that, and he texted me afterwards, said basically that it was inconclusive, and in the time allotted, we couldn't see anything that would overrule the referee's decision.
That's crazy.
It's tough, but you really...
What do you think?
I think it was a punch, but I had to watch it 50 times to be sure about it. I had to see that one angle, and I didn't see this till the next day where they freeze framed it, and you could see the white glove and the blood spurt off the punch. So it took a long time for me to be certain, and you could hear the broadcast, like Tim Bradley, Bernardo, they weren't sure for a while. They said punch at first, then they said headbutt, then they went back to punch, so all over the place.
From what I saw, the heads didn't even clash. You know what I mean? And I see the shot lands cleanly. As soon as the shot lands cleanly, you can see Navarrete backs up and he puts his glove on over his eye. So that right there just indicates it's from the punch.
I think what made me believe at the time that it was a butt was that I can't remember seeing a cut opened up by a punch that high. Like it was just high enough that I'm like, nah, that can't possibly be a punch. But it absolutely was. Like that was a clean shot by Charlie Suarez. He should have won that fight by knockout. Now, the California Commission is going to review this in a couple of weeks. My guess is that they rule it a no contest because of all the evidence that they'll be shown. Suarez's team is undoubtedly going to push for an overturning, knockout win by me. What do you think is the right thing to do here?
Man, see, I believe 100% it was a punch. But my thing is this: when you have people that like you're saying, it easily looked like it was a headbutt. I think when it's indecisive like that, then you got to go no contest. You know what I mean? I believe it was a punch, but something like that, you just got to go no contest and do an immediate rematch. The rematch has to be a mandatory. And I think Suarez should get paid at least double of what his pay was.
Yeah, he should be treated like world champion going into that fight. I agree with you that a no contest is the fairest way to do it, in part because, like, you never know. Like, let's say
this is news to me. This is news to me that they do the replays in Cali. Yeah, I didn't know that the replays are in effect.
They can do it in the time, I guess, between rounds, where they have to decide if there is incontrovertible evidence to overturn the referee decision, and the referee decision in the ring was a headbutt. I don't really fault the referee for all the reasons you said. Like it was a bang bang play where it's like punch followed by what looked like a clash of heads, and when you kind of see that cut burst. And look, Navarrete didn't pull all the way back until after the whole exchange, right? The punch and then the clash. So I can see a referee in real time ruling it that way. I don't think you can overturn it and call it a win for Suarez because, like, I never know. Like, let's say the referee in that moment ruled it a punch. Like Navarrete probably fights a little bit differently there. Like Navarrete's probably looking at his eye going, you know what, this is not going to last very long. Maybe I'm going to go out there and go for the kill. I don't know if that would have changed how the rest of the fight would have played out. It's like in other sports. Like if a referee blows a call in an NBA game where they call a foul that leads to free throws, that leads to a win, the NBA will acknowledge the mistake, but they're not going to overturn the result. I don't think you can overturn the result in this particular situation. I do love the idea that I heard Bob Arum put out there. Bring this fight to the Philippines. Do it in Manila.
Yeah, for sure.
Big crowd. Suarez won a bunch of fans, not just for that punch, but he fought a fun fight.
Oh, yeah,
like he is a fun fighter. He's a 36-year-old ex-military officer.
He's that old.
Yeah, he's on the older side. Like he's an older ex-military guy. Like I think I think doing it in the Philippines in front of a big crowd, maybe not a huge gate, but who cares? Navarrete doesn't. I mean, it was in San Diego last time. Wasn't a huge gate there either.
I actually think that Navarrete thought it was from a punch because the way he came back in the next round is he was applying pressure, and it's almost like he was behaving like a fighter that if they stop the fight, then I can lose.
He might have. I can never tell with Navarrete though because that's just kind of how he fights.
Yeah, he's a wild dude.
There's no technique to his game whatsoever.
No, it's like he has the drunken monkey style. It's like you don't know what's coming.
It's like these punches come from angles that are so unorthodox, like rear uppercuts from like 8 feet away. So he could have thought that.
For sure.
But you just never know with that guy. I agree with everything you said there. I think pay Suarez a lot more than got paid this time. Have the belt on the line again. Do it in his backyard, which I think is great. Give him an opportunity to win a title on his home turf. I'm not sure Navarrete would even go through with it though. Like Navarrete really struggled to make weight that time. Like had to multiple times go back to the scale to make 130. He's dabbled at 135 before. He's a big guy. He might decide now that now's the time to move up. In that case, Suarez could fight for a vacant title.
Yeah, for sure. If he vacates the title, then I think Suarez should be the guy that fights for that title right away.
Yeah, no question about that. Gabe, great stuff, man. Always appreciate you coming in. Much better than Sergio Mora. Light years better than Sergio Mora. Check out Gabe's stuff over at the Mi Gallo podcast. Does it every week with Abner Mares. Phenomenal listen, phenomenal to watch as well. Always appreciate it, man.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it, bro.